Fathoming life. Those who fathom the real character of the life in us do not labor themselves over the aspects of life that deliberate activity can do nothing about. Those who fathom the real character of fate do not labor themselves over what understanding cannot alter. Although the nourishing of the body requires external things, some fail to nourish their bodies even with more than enough things. Although the continuance of life requires that the body is not dismembered, some bodies lose the life in them even when still intact. When life comes, it cannot be refused, and when it departs, it cannot be detained. How sad it is that the people of the world think that nourishing the body is enough to preserve the life in them. But in the final analysis, a nourished body is not sufficient for the preservation of this life, so what in the world could be really worth doing? Though nothing is really worth doing, it is impossible not to do something or other, so our activity itself is simply one more thing that cannot be avoided. But to liberate your body from always having to be doing something, there is nothing more effective than letting go of the world. When you let go of the world, you are free of entanglements. Free of entanglements, you are balanced and untilting. Balanced and untilting, you are reborn along with each presence that confronts you. With such rebirth, you have done about all that can be done. Why then is it worthwhile to let go of your concerns and forget all about life? Because when concerns are let go of, the body is no longer labored. When life is forgotten, the seminal quintessence of vitality remains undamaged. When the body is intact and the seminal quintessence of vitality restored, you are one with heaven. Heaven and earth are the parents of all things. When they come together, a substantial body is formed. When that disperses, a new beginning takes shape. With both body and the seminal vitality intact, you can then convey yourself onward. Making the quintessence of vitality still more concentrated and quintessential, you return to the source, thereby assisting in the operations of heaven. Lizzie said to Guanyin, the guard of the pass, the consummate person can walk under water without suffocating, tread on fire without getting scorched, move over the face of all things without trembling. How does he reach such a state? Guanyin said, by preserving his pure vital energy, not through understanding, skill, resoluteness, or courage. Stay a while, I will tell you about it. Whatever has an appearance, an image, a sound, or a color is a being. How can any being be much different from any other being? How could any of them have what it takes to be the first? For they themselves are nothing more than colors and forms. Hence, there must be a beginning of beings in the formlessness and an end of beings in the unchanging. How could those who find this and realize it fully be brought to a halt by any mere being? They will rather find their place without overflowing the proper measure and yet hide themselves away in the proportions of the endless, roaming through that in which all beings end and begin. They unify their inborn nature, nourish their vital energy, and merge their virtuosities, thereby opening into the place from which all beings are created. Someone like this keeps the heavenly in him intact and the spirit in him free of gaps, so there is nowhere through which mere beings can get at him. When a drunken man falls from a cart, he may be hurt, but he will not be killed. His bones and joints are no different from those of other men, but the degree of harm done by the fall differs radically, for the spiritual in him forms one intact whole. Having been unaware that he was riding, he is now unaware that he is falling. The frights and shocks of life and death have no way to enter his breast, so he is unflinching no matter how things may clash with him. Finding wholeness in liquor, he reaches such a state. Imagine then someone who finds his wholeness in the heavenly. The sage submerges himself in the heavenly, and that is why nothing can harm him. A seeker of revenge does not go so far as to smash his enemy's weapon, and even the most ill-tempered person bears no grudge against a loose tile that happens to plunk down on his head. This reveals to us a way in which all the world can become peaceful and balanced. It is through this course that freedom from the chaos of war and the cruelties of killing can be reached. Do not develop the heavenly of man, but the heavenly of heaven. Developing the heavenly empowers life, developing the human plunders it. Insatiably partake of the heavenly, but do not neglect the human either, then even the ordinary people around you will soon come to live by what is genuine in them. When Confucius was traveling through the forests of Chu, he came upon a hunchback who was catching cicadas with a glue-tipped stick as if plucking them up with his hand. Confucius said, "How skillful you are! Or do you have a course?" The old man said, I have a course. For 5 or 6 months, I practiced piling one pellet on top of another. When I could make a stack of 2 without it toppling over, already I would lose only very few cicadas. When I could make a stack of 3, I could catch 9 out of 10. By the time I was able to balance a stack of 5, I could catch the cicadas as if plucking them up with my hand. I settled my body like a twisted old stump, holding my arms still like the branch of a withered tree. Although heaven and earth are vast and the 10,000 things numerous, I am aware of nothing but cicada wings. Motionless, neither turning nor leaning, I would not trade away a single cicada wing for all of creation. How could I fail to catch them, no matter what I do? Confucius turned to his disciples and said, using his will undividedly, the spiritual in him converges and solidifies. Such would perhaps be a description of this hunchback gentleman here. Yan Hui said to Confucius, when I was crossing the Gulf of Shangshan, I came across a ferryman who sailed his boat with the grace of a spirit. I asked him if such helmsmanship could be learned. He said yes. It is a good swimmer who can usually do it. If he can swim underwater, he can operate a boat even if he has never seen one before. I asked him to explain this, but he refused. What did he mean? Confucius said, a good swimmer can usually do it because he has forgotten the existence of the water. One who can swim underwater can operate a boat even if he's never seen one before, because to him a deep pool is no different from a gentle hill and a capsizing boat just like an overturning cart. Even if his vessel is tossed and flipped in all directions, it doesn't get to him, so he is relaxed and leisurely wherever he sails. When a man shoots an arrow to win a tile, he is skillful. But if he is trying to win a silver buckle, he starts getting nervous. And if he's competing for gold, he almost loses his mind. His native skill is the same in each case, but because he has something to lose, he overvalues the external. Whenever the external is prized, the internal gets clumsy. Tian Kaiji was having an audience with Duke Wei of Zhou. The Duke said, I have heard that Zhu Xin is quite learned on the subject of the life in us. You, my dear sir, have spent some time with Zhu Xin. What did you hear from him about this topic? Tian Kaiji said, all I did there was tend to the outer courtyard, broom in hand. What could I have heard from the master? The Duke said, no need to be so modest. I want to hear what you have to say. Tian Kaiji said, what I heard from the master was this: one who is skillful in nurturing the life within us goes about it just as if he were herding sheep. He just whips forward the ones he sees lagging behind. Duke Wei asked, what does this mean? Tian Kaiji said, in the state of Lu there was a man named Shan Bao who lived among the rocky cliffs and drank only water, completely isolating himself from the struggles for profit of the ordinary folk. He went on like this for 70 years and still had the physical glow of a young child. But then one day he had the bad luck of encountering a hungry tiger, which promptly killed and ate him. On the other hand, there was a man named Zhang Yi who rushed off to pay a visit to every rich family and fancy mansion he could find. He went on like this for 40 years, and then he developed a fever from within that killed him off. Bao nurtured the internal and a tiger ate his external form. Yi nurtured the external and an illness attacked him from within. Both of these men failed to whip forward the one that was lagging behind. Confucius said, do not go inside and hide yourself. Do not go out and make a show of yourself. Plant yourself firmly in the middle. One who can do all three of these will surely attain the greatest renown. When planning a journey on a dangerous road, hearing that even 1 in 10 men are killed, fathers will take the utmost precautions with their sons and brothers with their brothers, not daring to depart unless they have a large armed escort. Is this not wise? But these same men do not understand that they should take similar precautions against the dangers that come to a man when lying in his bed or when eating and drinking. This is their mistake. The invocator of the ancestors, dressed in his solemn black robes, stood over the pig pen and counseled the pigs, saying, why should you object to dying? If I offered to feed you grain for 3 months, to keep vigil for 10 days and fast for another 3, then lay out the mats of white rushes and place your shoulders and rump upon the carved stand, surely you'd be willing to go along with it? Someone who was planning things from the point of view of the pigs would say it would be better to eat bran and chaff and be left right there in the pen. Planning things from his own point of view, he is willing to go along with having the honors of cap and carriage while still alive and a fancy hearse to bear him to his stately funeral when he dies. Planning from the point of view of the pigs, he rejects these things. Planning from his own point of view, he chooses them. Why does he think he's so different from the pigs? Once, when Duke Huan was hunting in the marshes with Guanzhong as his driver, he saw a ghost. The Duke took hold of Guanzhong's hand and said, "What did you see, Father Zhong?" "I didn't see anything, my lord," answered the other. After returning home, the Duke began mumbling to himself until he took ill, remaining at home for several days. Huangzi Gaoao, an official of Qi, said to the Duke, "You are injuring yourself, my lord. How could a ghost be able to harm you? When accumulated energy is dispersed outward in anger without being recovered, it becomes insufficient for your needs within. When it ascends without descending, it makes you ill-tempered. When it descends without ascending, it makes you forgetful. And if it neither ascends nor descends, but remains in the place of the heart at the center of the body, it makes you ill." Duke Huan said, "But are there really such things as ghosts?" He answered, "Indeed, there are. In the hearth there are the Lu, and in the stove, the Qi. Within the refuge heap inside the gate lives the Leitang. In the northeast, the Pei and Goyalong frolic, while the Yang dwells in the northwest. Then there are the Gongxiang of the water, the Xian of the hills, the Gui of the mountains, the Pangwang of the meadows, and the Weitua of the marshes." The Duke asked, "What does the Weitua look like?" Huangzi answered, "The Weitua is as big as the hub of a carriage wheel and as long as its shaft, robed in purple and capped in red. This creature dislikes the rumblings of chariot wheels, and when it hears them it stands up with its hands on its head. Anyone who sees this creature generally goes on to become a hegemon of all the states." Duke Huan burst out laughing and said, "That is what I saw." Thereupon he put on his official clothes and took his seat at court, and before the end of the day, without his even realizing it, his illness was gone. Ji Xingzi was training a fighting cock for the king. After 10 days he was asked if the bird was ready. "Not yet," he said. "He's just become vain and confident in his own strength." Asked again 10 days later, he said, "Not yet." He still responds to shadows and echoes. Asked again in another 10 days, he said, "Not yet." He still glares aggressively, his angry strength at full blast. Asked again 10 days later, he finally said, "He is almost there." Now, even when another rooster crows, he does not flinch. He appears to all the world like a rooster made of wood, for his virtuosity is whole and intact. The other roosters dare not face him, they just turn and run. Confucius was viewing the Lu waterfall, which plummets several hundred feet, whitening the waters for 40 miles around, impassable to fishes and turtles. And yet he saw an old man swimming there in the torrent. Thinking the man had attempted suicide due to some suffering in his life, Confucius sent his disciples to run along the bank and try to pull him out. But the old man emerged several hundred paces downstream, walking along the bank singing, his hair streaming down his back. Confucius hurried after him and said, "I thought you were a ghost, but now I see you are a man. Do you have a course that allows you to tread upon the waters?" "No, I have no course," said the old man. "I got my start in the given, developed via my own inborn nature, and reach completion through fate. I enter into the navels of the whirlpools and emerge with the surging eddies. I just follow the course of the water itself without making any private one of my own. This is how I tread the waters." Confucius said, "What do you mean by getting your start in the given, developing via your own inborn nature, and reaching completion through fate?" "I was born on the land and thus I feel securely at home on the land. That's the given. I grew up with the water and thus I feel securely at home in the water. That's my own nature. And I am thus and so, but without knowing how or why I am thus and so. That's fate." Xing the woodworker was carving a bell stand. When it was done, all who saw it were astonished, as if they had seen the doings of a ghost or spirit. When the Marquis of Lu saw it, he asked, "What technique do you have for this?" Xin replied, "I am just an artisan. What technique could I have? However, there is one thing. When I am going to make a bell stand, I dare not let it deplete my vital energy. Rather, I fast to quiet my mind, and after 3 days, I no longer presume to care about praise or reward, rank or salary. After 5 days, I no longer presume to care about honor and disgrace, skill and clumsiness. After 7 days, I become so still that I forget I have 4 limbs or a body. When this happens, for me it is as if the royal court has ceased to exist. My skill is concentrated and the outside world slides away. Then I enter into the mountain forests, viewing the inborn heavenly nature of the trees. My body arrives at a certain spot, and already I see the completed bell stand there, only then do I apply my hand to it. Otherwise, I leave the tree alone. So I am just matching the heavenly to the heavenly. This may be the reason the result suggests the work of spirits. Dong Ye was introduced to Duke Chuang to exhibit his driving skills. He advanced and retreated with the straightness of a taut cord and swerved left and right in arcs that could have been drawn with a compass. Duke Chuang, taking the patterns of his motions to be unsurpassable, told him to make 100 circuits along the same lines. He encountered the carriages on the road and then entered the palace to see the Duke, saying, "Ji's horses are going to collapse." The Duke remained silent. After a while, the horses did indeed collapse. The Duke asked, "How did you know?" He said his horses had come to the end of their strength, but he kept making demands on them. "That is why I said they would collapse." Shui, the artisan's swooping freehand arcs could match the lines made with compasses and T-squares, for his fingers transformed along with the thing he was making, his mind never lingering to check or verify. Hence, his numinous platform was unified and unshackled to any one place. The forgetting of the foot means the shoe fits comfortably. The forgetting of the waist means the belt fits comfortably. And when the understanding forgets right and wrong, the mind fits comfortably. When the encounter with each thing fits comfortably, the internal is not altered and the external is not made master. When everything fits, from beginning to end, even this fitting is forgotten, and that is the perfect fit. There was a certain man named Sun Xiu who followed Master Bian Qingzi all the way to his gate and declared to him, "When I lived in the villages, never did anyone say I was an uncultivated man. When facing a challenge, never has anyone said I was a coward. And yet, when I cultivated the fields, I never got a good crop, and when I served a lord, the time was never right for advancement. So I have ended up being outcast from the villages and exiled from the towns. What crime have I committed against heaven? Why have I met with this fate?" Master Bian said, "Can it be that you've never heard how the consummate person conducts himself? He forgets his liver and gallbladder and drops his eyes and ears, drifting oblivious and uncommitted beyond the dust and grime, far-flung and unfettered in the great work of doing nothing in particular. This is called taking action but not relying on it for any credit, helping things grow but not controlling them. You, on the other hand, ornament your wisdom to astonish the stupid, cultivating your person to display yourself against the disreputable, so shiny and flashy as if walking along wielding the sun and moon in your hands. You've managed to keep your body with all its 9 openings intact, rather than being cut down midway by blindness, deafness, lameness, or deformity. You're luckier than most. What leisure do you have to resent how heaven has treated you? Away with you." Sun Xiu departed and Master Bian took his seat. After a while, he looked up to heaven and sighed. A disciple asked, "Why do you sigh, Master?" Master Bian said, "Just now I instructed Sun Xiu by telling him of the virtuosity of the consummate person. I am afraid he will be quite bewildered by it, leading him into great confusion." His disciple said, "Not at all. Let's say Sun Xiu was in the right and you, my master, were in the wrong. Well, the wrong certainly has no power to bewilder the right. But let's say Sun Xiu was in the wrong and my master in the right. In that case, he was already confused when he came to you. In either case, what harm has been done?" Master Bian said, "That's not how it is. Once a bird came to roost in the outskirts of Lu. The ruler of Lu was delighted by it, presenting to it a feast replete with all the finest meats and having the 9-fold Shao music performed for it. The bird soon started to appear worried and sad, looking around in a daze, not venturing to eat or drink. This is called trying to nourish a bird with what would nourish oneself. To nourish a bird as the bird itself would want to be nourished, you should let it perch in the deep forests and glide through the rivers and lakes, allowing it to eat whatever wiggly things it can find. For this creature, such a life is as comfortable as walking along on level ground. Now Sun Xiu, an ignorant person of little learning, comes to me and I describe to him the virtuosity of the consummate person. That is like taking a mouse for a ride in a carriage or trying to delight a quail with the music of drums and bells. How could he fail to be bewildered?